Hi, I'm Willie. Welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, please click subscribe and click that bell notification icon. If you are a return viewer, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, what we are talking about tonight is what I am calling the $600,000 question. And if you're paying attention to IT security news, you may already know why I'm calling it the $600,000 question. But if you don't know why I'm calling it the $600,000 question, is because a small town in Florida, and you know how the news goes in Florida, called Riviera Beach, Florida, and you can see there's a little pin right about here. This is about this is not the scale. This is me freehanding the state of Florida. But Riviera Beach is down here on the East Coast. They got ransomware. And they are paying, and by the way, this lovely $600,000 art was provided by my daughter, so don't make fun of it. But $600,000, they decided to pay the ransom, but the $600,000 question is, why did it get this far? So that's what we're going to talk about. What's done is done. They apparently are paying the ransom, the $600,000. And if I was a Florida taxpayer, especially in this municipality, I would be asking a lot of questions. So let's break this down a little bit, and I may not even be able to cover everything, so you might have to hop in down in the comments and help me out, but I'm going to flip the board over real quick, and we're going to make some lists. So, the $600,000 question. All right, so my very first question is, do they not have backups? They must not have backups. If you're going to pay a $600,000 ransom, you must not have any backups or any backups that are worth anything. Now, you can set this up a few different ways. I've helped people all over the place, and I do this myself. When we do backups, we keep versions, right? But the other thing that we do is on site. This might get kind of, I'm going to switch colors here. This is my first time with the big new whiteboard, so I'm excited. So please forgive me. We're going to draw all the colors. All right, so with the backups, what I would do is you've got your live files. All right, so you've got your live files. And then what you're going to do is we back up once locally. So there's one copy of the files locally. And then what we do is every time we write a file here, this, we keep like multiple days worth of backups, multiple versions of the backup. And sometimes we will keep as few as 7, but sometimes we will keep as many as 32 or more. Okay, so you've got your live files you're working with. Then you're coming down here to your first copy. And then you're going to keep, this looks like a 1, but that's 7. You can keep however many you want. Some people will only keep 1. I don't recommend that if you have the storage. But then what we do is we take this guy and we send it off-site to the warm site. Could be warm site, hot site, cold site. So now we're dealing with 3 different copies of the data. We've got our live files, we've got one backup here, and we're also sending all of our versions down here too. It's not just the latest. And with devices like Synology, it is super inexpensive to be able to have this kind of methodology. And so if this is something that you're interested in and your IT department's not doing, or you're not offering to people, let us know, reach out, and we can definitely help you with this. Because if this company would have had, or if this municipality would have had backups, or their IT vendor or whoever is consulting with them, somebody obviously told them to pay the ransom, and you're seeing that a lot. And some people are saying, don't pay the ransom because now we're going to see things escalate, or there's no guarantee you're going to get your files back. Now, what I do have to say about that is people love money. And these people who are distributing the ransomware, if they suddenly stop giving the files back en masse, nobody's going to pay the ransom, so it's with, you know, it's in their best interest to return the files. And I've worked with some people who've paid the ransom, and they always get their files back. So your mileage may vary on that. I don't know. So obviously, this $600,000 question, there are no backups, because if there are backups, they should have been very easy to fail back to their backups. So there's no backups? Question mark. That's a $600,000 question right there. Why you don't have any backups? I mean, even with the ransomware getting smarter and deleting volume shadow copies and things like that, if you had some good offsite backups, you know, I don't know what to tell you, really. There's no excuse not to have these backups, and you should be testing them regularly. Now, email servers, depending on how much email you have, sometimes that's a bit of a struggle, but if you are archiving email because you're in government and that's what you should be doing, then this wouldn't hurt as bad. You would have to restore from the archiver, but you wouldn't have lost all of your email. So a lot of this that's happening is hinging on having no backups. Okay, so the other thing that we think that we know is that it came in via email and that it was clicked on. So there's a couple different things with that. First of all, educating your users and telling them to be careful on things they click on, and educating them what a phishing message is going to look like and things like that. Now, anybody could make the mistake and click on a link in an email. I'm not going to say that that can't happen or it doesn't happen. It does happen. However, if this one computer that this person is signed into takes down the entire network, encrypts absolute everything, is this user running as does this user have administrative rights over the entire network? Right? So now people are going to say, well, it could do privilege escalation and blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, if this user only had the rights, unless it was an administrative user, why was this user able to encrypt all these things, right? So we should be reviewing our user permissions, and we use the concept of least privilege, which says we only give the users the amount of access that they need to perform their job. So that's another thing that I would be looking at in this situation is what kind of access did the users have? How did this thing spread? I've been involved in an active ransomware software deployment, and it was able to be stopped because the user that it hit only had access to this much information. We were alerted. We were able to roll it back by lunch. The longest part of the entire operation was disinfecting the machine. So, but that user was not an administrator on the laptop. That's a no-no. And that user was not an administrator on the network and only had access to what that user needed. So they were only able to encrypt their files. Now, if there's some sort of super bug out there that's jumping things around and, who knows, maybe that exists. Maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe since they didn't have any backups and their users were clicking on suspicious links, well, perhaps their users were running as administrators and the security wasn't set up right to begin with. I'm only speculating. I don't know. When we're doing an autopsy of these things, it's easy for me to sit here and formulate these ideas. But being able to formulate ideas because you've seen a lot of these things or you understand how these things work, that's a whole other story. So they've got no backups. It came in through an email. The user clicked on the email link. This user, or however it ran, obviously had permission to encrypt all the things. Yikes. So now we're back to paying a $600,000 ransom. So was there any preventative? All right, so this is where a lot of us in the IT community, we're going to disagree. No, there is no preventative. There is no silver bullet. when we design our security, and if you go back through my videos, you're going to see a Security Saturday video that I did that talks about defense in depth, and I like to call it the security jawbreaker, but about designing your security in layers. That way, if one layer is breached, there's still another layer of protection. So one of those layers is actually end user training. You know, and I guess here's one thing, and I'm just going to be brutally honest with this. One thing that really makes me mad is the taxpayers and this organization are being taken to the bank by their security consultants. Because if their consultants were doing their jobs in the first place, this could have been minimized. Could it have been prevented? No. These things are always going to happen, but we have to be able to limit our exposure and limit how much damage these things are allowed to do, right? So let's talk about some of these layers real quick. So layer 1, and we'll work from the outside. We'll work from the outside in, right? So layer number 1. This is going to be our external, like our firewall, our external firewall for our organization. By the way, people are also firewalls. They're also intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems. So you should respect your end users and treat them as such, because they have a lot of skin in the game. They have just as much skin in the game as you do. So let's all get on the same page. All right, so this is our external firewall. So maybe with our external firewall, let's say that maybe even before that, let's say that this is our IDS and maybe even IPS. So we've got 2 layers right there. Then on top of that, let's say that this layer, this is our content filtering. And I'm not talking about spam. That's still another layer. I'm talking about so people can't get to porn sites, gambling sites, all those places, unless that's the industry that they're in, that they probably shouldn't be at, especially in a government office. All right. So then my next layer here, I mean, maybe there's another firewall. Some organizations have firewalls inside of firewalls, and I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. It's all going to depend on the security needs of your organization, but some of these things are going to be key no matter the size of the organization. User permissions, user training, backups. These are all things that organizations of all sizes should be concerned with. And we're going to get to something else on that here in a minute, but we're still building our layers. So then maybe that next layer is user training. Now, a lot of you may complain in the comments that this is not the way that these layers should be ordered, and that's fine. I'm throwing these out as examples. This is not gospel. This is not a design that you should take and run with. These are purely examples of how you should layer your defense. So obviously user training could be further in, and something like Malwarebytes or your antivirus could be here, or if you've got a program that does whitelisting of applications that are allowed to run. There's a lot of theories out there now about how to stop ransomware within the file system and making it so that files just can't be encrypted and things like that. So there's some things out there, if you do some reading, that are pretty interesting. The point is that there's not one silver bullet, and it takes a whole lot of things to be able to mitigate this. And you're not even mitigating it completely, because it can happen to any organization. It could at any time. But what you're doing is you're softening the blow. You're slowing it down so that you can actually figure out what's going on. Now, back to I got a little ranty. Sorry about that. Not really. You should listen to some of that. But all right, so I'm going to fix my 600,000. the consulting company that's working on this is probably making it rain. Dollar bills, y'all. Okay? So, what does it cost to train your users? Well, if you've got somebody that's competent on staff and can train your users, that is probably, in training, you don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money with a third party. You can develop these training tools off of things that are available for free on YouTube. You can just have conversations with people, talking to people, treating people like people. It will get you far. And I always tell all of my end users that they are just as much of an integral part of this system as the technology that we put in place, and I mean that, and I want them to let us know what's going on. So, because, I mean, they're in the field, they're living this, you know. Sometimes those of us who are dealing with the security in the back end, we're watching things, who knows what some of these guys are doing. I mean, obviously, whoever was running the security for this place was asleep at the switch. So, and yes, I'm being very critical, because I think that this is going to, you know, we're going to see this snowballing across the world probably, because people think that, you know, hospitals and governments have deep pockets and that they'll just continue to pay for this. Where I'm going with that is that had they spent a fraction of this $600,000, a fraction of the $600,000, this could have been slowed way down. It would not have cost them $600,000. There would have been some pain points, I'm sure. But this is a village, I think, or a town of about 35,000 people. So they could have a respectable amount of data. But if they would have spent, I don't know, I'm thinking about the last time I put a rack station in. They had about 36 terabytes. So let's just say that on Malwarebytes, so I just got a renewal on a Malwarebytes today for about $7,000, and that's for a couple hundred machines. So there's $7,000. Firewalls always stay up to date. You got user training, and let's say we're putting some Synologies in there, and they got about 40 terabytes. I don't know. So I don't know. Let's say that they even would have spent $30,000, which is, they're probably going to pay their consultants that told them to pay the ransom. They're probably going to pay their consultants at least this, I would imagine, at least. So let's say that they'd have spent $30,000 up front, and they would have worked with their consultant, and their consultant would have had all their backup stuff in place. They'd have had user permissions checked out and user training checked out. We could have seen, we'd have spent the hard 30. This is going to be on hardware. This is going to be on software. But let's say that now we've got to spend some time. Let's say it encrypted this person's folder and maybe a database. Well, if I've got backups of all those things, maybe I'm out 2 days. You know, so let's be generous. Let's talk about the consultant fees. A lot of these consultants, they're making bank. You know, the consultants that I know, that this is all they do is the security side of it. I think their minimum billable is $200 an hour. So let's just say that $200 an hour, and then I don't know how many people are in their IT department, but let's just say over the course of 2 days, you know, it cost $10,000 in soft time, vendor time, things like that. So for a total of $40,000 preventative, you know, it's possible, and I'm going to say this because I know how much data that I manage with rack stations and things like that, and comparing the size of the populations. I'm going to say that for around $40,000, we could have avoided the $600,000 question. It's just some food for thought. I really wanted to talk about this. This vendor, I don't know that I could sleep at night. You know, if I at least didn't do the things that I are telling you that I think are appropriate. So We should all be having this conversation. We should all be asking, do we want to pay the $600,000 later, or do we want to pay the $40,000 up front? And that doesn't matter whether you're a government agency or a private business. This is really something to take a look into. Now, I know this got a bit ranty. It wasn't really scripted, but it's meant to be more of a free-flowing conversation. So you can take a look at how some of the things should be done. Take a look at the security gobstopper, which, like I said, I'm sure people are going to complain about this, but whatever. As long as you're developing your model, your defense in depth, your layers of security, good for you. So we'll flip this back over because I'm really happy with my daughter's art. So once again, this was the $600,000 question, talking about the ransomware incident in Riviera Beach, Florida. I'm Willie Howe. If you need IT consulting to help avoid a mess like this, go to williehowe.com down there in the comments. Fill out that contact form. Somebody will get a hold of you as soon as possible. If we can't help you, we'll get you someone who can. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please comment, share. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Discord link is down below if you'd like to become a patron on Patreon. And thank you to those folks. That link is down below if you'd like to buy any of the gear you see us here use here on the channel. Affiliate links are down below. They don't change your price. They do kick a couple bucks over to the channel so I can get this nice whiteboard. So thank you to everyone. Get this nice whiteboard so I can get all ranty on the $600,000. $600,000. That's a lot of tacos. I'm just saying. That's a lot of tacos. Anyway, I'm Willie Howe, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.